Today's episode is brought to you by Positively Productive Systems, whose mission is to be the antidote to your stress and to provide compassionate productivity resources and coaching that help you heal and achieve. Be sure to check out both free and paid resources at positivelyproductive.com/resources.
Self-love is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. I always used to hear yoga is a practice because you never become perfect. It's something you do for the rest of your life. Self-love is the same thing. There's no destination. Self-love, self-growth, self-development, self-awareness, it is all a process that's going to take you for the rest of your life, as long as you're willing to stay on the train. And I always say, yeah, you can jump off here and there, but always get back on the train, because that's when things will start rolling out in a way so that when the challenging days come, you have enough self-love, self-awareness, self-confidence, self-esteem to not let it drown you.
You're listening to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Zaratny, founder of Positively Productive Systems and a coach certified in time and stress management, helping overwhelmed clients make space for what matters. Join me each episode as we explore ways to live a more proactive, productive life with topics and guests that speak to simplifying self-awareness, systems, and so much more. I understand overwhelm personally as a fellow multi-passionate entrepreneur, wife and mom to kids and cats, and former caregiver. I'm here to help you choose what's right for you so you can do less, live more, and breathe easier. Sound good? Let's get to it. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast. I'm your host, Lisa, and I understand the challenges of loving yourself and making time for self-care. It's why I like to feature self-love topics on the podcast during February, a month known for romantic love. It's time to turn that love around on ourselves, and I truly believe before any other relationship stands a chance, we must love ourselves first. One of the chief complaints about self-care is not having time to do it, and as you'll hear in today's conversation, it's not completely about that, but I respect the challenge. We've talked about self-care and all the surrounding topics like self-love and self-worth many times on the podcast. We covered the time factor in episode 104 with Daniela Wolf, where we talked about easy options and how to efficiently approach self-care. So that would make a great companion episode for this one. But today, I wanted to take it a step further and come up with an approach that is simple, efficient, and effective, and, most importantly, creative and fun. Today's episode combines this all brilliantly, and I invited Miriam Wexler, a fellow mindset coach, to the show to talk about how the 5 love languages can be used to approach self-care. Miriam is a certified mindset and life purpose coach currently based out of Florence, Italy. As the owner and founder of Miriam Wexler Group, Inc., she has over 20 years' experience in a career spanning public relations, event management, coaching, and entrepreneurship. She helps clients live their best life by filling the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. And if where you want to be is in a better relationship with yourself, this episode will help you do that. When we know our love languages and share them with others, we not only show them how we need to be loved, we have information we can turn inward to filter our own self-care approach. Imagine skipping all the things everyone else keeps telling you you need to do for self-care and only focusing on the things that ensure you are getting what you need, that you register as love. That's what this approach can do. Miriam and I had such a great time exploring the love languages and making new connections to them. You'll want to listen for a reference to a very popular song right now that could honestly be the anthem for this episode. And I'll definitely add it to the Positively Living Podcast Spotify playlist. So if you are on Spotify, be sure to look for that. There's also some bonus advice Miriam gives toward the end of the conversation that will help you see how this approach can work not just for self-care, but as a complement to our relationships with others. And if you're wondering if we talk about self-love, like really loving yourself physically, yep, that's in the conversation too. And you'll find Miriam's reasons for doing it inspiring. I wonder if you can guess what my primary love language is. It's coffee. Okay, My guest doesn't mention it today, but I'd like to give it an honorable mention. Coffee's always been there for me. I feel love when I drink it. I think it counts. Maybe I need to do an episode just about coffee. But in the meantime, let's join Miriam as we talk about the 5 love languages that we can use for self care. And after the episode, please message me and let me know which ones are yours. Welcome to the Positively Living Podcast, Miriam Wexler. I'm so delighted to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm really looking forward to today's session.
As am I. And before we dig into the topic of the day, would you please tell us a bit about who you are and who you help and what makes you light up?
As you heard, my name is Miriam. I am a mindset coach. And, it's funny. I started out, I'm a life purpose coach. No, I'm this because you want to help everyone with everything. But the reality is, I'm a mindset and transformation coach. And I help people who are trying to figure out how to get from where they are to where they want to be and kind of connecting the two dots for them. Because a lot of people, the biggest complaint I hear is I'm stuck or I feel lost or something is blocking me and I don't know how to get out of where I am or from where I am. And what I do is I work together with them to kind of build their confidence, create a self esteem so they can find the courage to finally take that leap of faith and get to where they want to be in life.
I love that. And a big part of what we need, and also I think what we struggle with, is self care, right? And that's what we're going to talk about today in a really fun way, because I think love and self love and self compassion, self care, all the selves, right?
We forget ourselves so many times. So, I think there's a reason. I was looking at something the other day: self reliance, self compassion, self esteem, self awareness, self, because we really do need to start connecting with ourselves if we want to connect with our outer world. So, yeah, it's important.
I love that. That's so beautifully put. And today, one of the fun ways we're going to do that, because this is something that you have worked with, is the 5 love languages. So could you start us off with what those are, where they came from and I mean, what their original purpose was and what we're dealing with here?
So, the 5 love languages, for people who don't know what they are, it started with romantic love. So, it's the way couples can react, communicate, interact with one another in a meaningful way that works for each of the individuals together in the couple. So, what that means is when you can figure out what your partner's love language is, and there's a quiz online, it's a free quiz. Anybody can, just Google the 5 love languages and the quiz will come up. It's figuring out what your love language is so you can communicate that to your partner and they can speak to you in your love language. So, quick story here. I was in a relationship, this is years ago, and I remember we used to always, our relationship was very combative because he would do all these things for me and always wonder, why is it not enough? Why do you need me to tell you that I love you? I'm like, and then, oh, years later, when I finally read about and did the research of the 5 languages, I realized, oh my God, we're talking to each other in two completely different languages and we're not meeting halfway. So the 5 love languages are so important in a relationship. And I think it could be in other relationship, not just romantic one, where you can communicate your needs to your partner and they can provide what you need in a way that works for you and satisfies you. So that way everyone is happy. And it's such an easy thing to do and to figure out that can literally change the complete dynamic of your relationship.
When you think about it from a language standpoint, when we say something like, oh, there's a language barrier, there's a challenge because you're speaking 2 different languages. And so when you are, you can miss out on overall context. You can miss out on nuances. You can miss out on so many different things. And so speaking the same language or speaking another person's language, what a great gift that is too, right? If someone isn't speaking your language and then you
Yes.
learn it, that in and of itself is a beautiful gesture. So yeah, these were originally for relationships, but I think they've taken on a life of their own, have they not? Even on the website, which I'll provide a link for the quiz if you haven't taken it yet. And I think now it's for children and for families. And have you even seen it spoken about with regard to like working in business too? Like even your client love languages, right?
There is such a way that you can apply the 5 love languages to so many different aspects and areas and sectors of your life. And to what you said earlier, imagine finally realizing or getting to know, oh, this is how I can speak to this person to get what I want out of this relationship. When you figure out how somebody needs to be spoken to, how somebody needs to be treated, it's like learning a new language and jumping into that foreign country and speaking that language. Everything becomes so much easier. Everything becomes so much more open and so much more fluid. I tell people, do the quiz, figure it out. Why wouldn't you want to elevate your relationship in the easiest, fastest way possible? So, yeah, it is a beautiful way to get what you want by providing what somebody else wants.
And I love that spin because, okay, we could probably take it in a direction where it's like, well, that sounds like you're, manipulating. And it's like, okay, there's a big distinction here. And I do want to make that if you are hoping for the best possible outcome for both of you, and there are certain things that you're hoping for, and sometimes the thing you're hoping for is that someone else feels satisfied and happy.
Right. The way someone can make you happy is by being happy themselves. So why wouldn't you want to make someone happy knowing that the gift that you will get out of that is returned happiness? It's not about manipulation. It's about, oh my God, I can kill two birds with one stone. By making someone happy, I in turn will be happy. It's a win-win.
So, speaking of that desire to make someone happy, to show them love, now when we turn it inward on ourselves, right? When we talk about self care and self love, what do you see as the holdup here? Why do we tend to resist it? Even though I think we all agree, at least on the surface, we're like, yeah, this is important. What do you find as the block?
With a lot of my clients and a lot of people that I hear and a lot of the posts that I see on social media, it's about self worth. It's about recognizing that we are worth being loved and being treated well and loving ourselves. We deserve to be loved, to be cared for, to be supported. But a lot of people, and this is all, again, I mean, we can talk about this till the cows come home and spin it around. This is all childhood and early life trauma that keeps us kind of stuck in a place of unworthiness. So whether it's things that were said to us at home, things that were said to us at school, in our formative years, in a younger relationship, we take that baggage and we just carry it. It doesn't occur to a lot of people. No, no, you can just put it down. All you have to do is put it down. But people are like, no, this is, my cross to bear. And it sounds simplistic, but I tell a lot of my clients, you don't need to carry that. All you have to do is put it down. And I can give you, 100 different ways that, you can replace that with things that will build your self worth. But when trauma is entrenched in us from such a young age, it's a really difficult thing to go through. And, one of the things that I do with my work with my clients is like, no, no, we're going to work first on getting to the root of the limiting beliefs, of the blocks, of the lack of self worth, and fix that, because that's where I think most people stuck. But that's also where I think the five love languages, when you apply them inwardly, could create magic, like magical transformation.
So this is a really important distinction. I'm so glad that we're setting the scene with this, is that there's a lot that needs to be unpacked if we are not willing to give ourselves self-care. But if we're trying, right? We're at the precipice. We know that it's important. We're working on it. We're learning. Maybe we're healing. We've talked about trauma so much on this podcast. Mallory Jackson has done a beautiful job in helping us understand a trauma-informed life. And what you said is so beautiful about that baggage you're holding. You can set it down. It's okay. You don't have to carry it anymore. You show up worthy. But there has to be some steps that we can take to maybe, I guess, set a practice into motion that will help build that momentum and that belief. So do you feel that those small, simple practices of self-care can help us work toward that?
100%. And it's funny because I try to explain to people it doesn't happen overnight. So when you let go of the idea that change will happen overnight, you can be more open to actually trying different things. And there's so many different techniques and modalities that you can use that will get you to where you want to get eventually. I always stress the word eventually, because when you repeat things, look at Montessori school. Montessori school method is just repeat, repeat, repeat until it's ingrained in you. Why wouldn't self care be the same thing? When you repeat affirmations, when you repeat, when you journal every day, when you have a gratitude practice, when you take care of yourself, when you work out, when you eat healthy, all those things together combine to create a beautiful life for you because they reset you from the inside out. So, why wouldn't you want to give it a try? But the problem is, we are an instant gratification society and we want things now or even yesterday would be great. So it's like, oh, I don't have time. That's the one complaint. I don't have time. You don't have time to wash the dishes and recite affirmations at the same time. You don't have time to go for a walk with the dog and listen to a podcast or an audiobook. You don't have time when you're taking a shower to say what you're grateful for. We all have time. It's just a matter of finding it and it's a matter of wanting to find it. But again, I think self worth is tied to here's my problem. I'm going to hold on to it for dear life. And I'm going to make sure that no matter what is thrown at me, I'm holding on to this problem.
Yeah. What you said about, feeling like there isn't time and feeling that challenge, but the fact that these small, simple practices can help us build upon this belief of self-worth ties in so beautifully to what we're talking about today, which is let's use this construct of love languages and turn it inward. So, perfect segue. Let's dig into those love languages. Could you please describe them and then talk about how it can be used as self care?
Amazing. The first love language, and this happens to be one of my love languages as well, is words of affirmation. And words of affirmation is, for example, hearing I love you, hearing I'm so smart, hearing you are worthy, you're deserving, you're amazing, thank you for this, and thank you for that. It's beautiful words, positive words that reinforce your existence, what you're doing, your contribution, and all that stuff. And how you can turn that inwardly is think self love. So, what do words of affirmation for you mean? Well, the operative word is in the title affirmations. You want to feel self love? Tell yourself how wonderful you are. Tell yourself how smart you are. I am statements are beautiful, beautiful ways to affirm to yourself your worth, your value, your uniqueness, your intelligence. I am capable. I am smart. I am able to do anything I want to do. I can make money easily. I can, I can, etc., etc., etc. So affirmations are my favorite and easiest and fastest ways to start creating a self-love. Now, you may make I am statements and you might not believe them at the beginning because a lot of people think, oh, well, I am the smartest. Well, I'm not this. Just keep saying it. Keep saying it because the beautiful thing about repetition is it becomes habitual. And habits become things that we depend on and rely on, and they become truth. Anything can be true if you say that it's true. Another way to use words of affirmation, journal. Journal all the things that are in your mind, all your dreams, all your wishes, all your goals and aspirations. Journal your affirmations if you don't feel like reciting them. And when you document everything you accomplish, everything you're good at, it really makes you feel good. And when you go back, it's like, oh, let's read something from a month ago. Oh my God, I really had a good day on Tuesday, January the 5th. It was such a fun day and look at all the things that I accomplished. So journaling is another really beautiful way to get into that, words of affirmation practice. And the key to all of that is keep things positive. When you keep things positive, when you keep them light, it really does raise your vibration and everything is tied to energetics. So I'm going to tie the five love languages and self-love and self-care to energetics. When you feel good, your energetic vibration rises. We are like magnets. So when we are putting out to the universe this amazing positive vibration, we are calling in exchange the same energy back to us. And that's not to say that every day is going to be, sunshine and rainbows, but for the most part, an off day can easily be turned around with affirmations or journaling when you've begun the habit of doing that for yourself. So that's number one, words of affirmation.
Okay, I love that. And so I had a quick question. So I think this journaling is very clever, especially if you are still working on, right? It's all a practice of like speaking out loud, saying I am statements. So I think that's so clever. And this really ties in to a similar practice I have my clients do where when we are looking at our schedule for the week, we can tie that into gratitude. Look at all that I've accomplished, right? And
Mhm.
even saying that out loud, like sometimes when you exclaim to yourself, what a week I had, look at me go. That you can consider is words of affirmation if that matters to you. So with the I am statements, something that I've done before, and I wondered what your take was on it, is sometimes if it feels like a stretch, like if it really feels like a stretch, and I do understand your point about when you keep saying it and you keep practicing it, it will get easier and you will believe it. But what about making statements that feel closer to reality, but are encouraging and are pushing you that way? Like saying, I am making progress every day at a fast rate, or something like that.
Absolutely. Somebody told me once, for money affirmations, I make money easily. And then I thought to myself, well, money is not that easy to make. She's like, that's okay. I am new at this. And while making money is hard, it gets easier with time. I'm like, okay, there's an affirmation I can get behind. And eventually, you can tweak it. Nothing is written in stone. That's the thing. People think that once we do one thing, that's how it has to be. You can change it a million times over. You can tweak it, you can amend it, you can revise it. Your affirmations, you may not feel smart right now. Great. I am learning and adding to my intelligence every day. I am learning new concepts and getting smarter and smarter with time. Amend it to feel good for you. And then eventually you'll be like, look how many books I read this year. Look how I took these courses. I am smart. And then all of a sudden the affirmation has changed completely. You can tweak it to suit you. Just make sure that it's not from a negative perspective, but a positive one.
A growth one. I love that. Okay, great. What's the love language number two we're going to talk about?
So, love language number two is acts of service. And acts of service in a relationship can be taking out the garbage, picking up the dry cleaning, taking care of the bills, etc. When it comes to self love, I say acts of service is do self love. So if words of affirmation was talk self love, acts of service is do self love. So it can be anything from preparing healthy meals for yourself, working out, creating a to do list for your day or for your week, cleaning up your home or setting it up in such a way that makes you feel good when you come home. It can be about staying on top of your doctor's appointments, your dentist, your hairstylist, nails, whatever it is that takes care of you. And when you look good, when you feel good, when your home is clean and organized, your clothes are clean, everything is in its place, it feels really good. And these are all acts of service that you do for yourself. So it's doing the self love. And I love that so much because we don't think about these things on a regular basis. And to some people, maybe that's not their love language. But I always tell people, how amazing does it feel to come home after you've cleaned or your cleaning lady was there and everything is in its place? It's the most amazing feeling in the world. That is a beautiful act of service.
And okay, this is mine, by the way. Acts of service is big for me. And I love that you combined things because too often this happens with self-care is people talk about the pampering side of things. And I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I had a pedicure yesterday and that was amazing and it just made me feel so good. But there's so much more that you described here. Cleaning up and decluttering, you're talking my language when you talk about that. And eating good food that's good for us, it nourish things that nourish us. And that can involve things like working out, and they can involve things that include work, but it's things that benefit us when we do that. Love that.
I love putting things in my calendar. I love every day opening my calendar and knowing exactly what I have on the go. For me, I need to be organized. And for me, that organization just feels so good. It could be anything to anyone, right? So we're not tied to one thing and it's not just all about the pampering, although that's always a lovely little bonus, to throw in there.
All right. Are we ready for number three?
We are. Number three is gifts. And gifts in a relationship is things like being taken out for dinner or getting flowers or, small little things could be, bringing chocolates, the birthday gifts, etc. When it comes to ourselves and self love, this is where we get into receive self love or absorb self love. And it's things that are, anything from buying things for yourself that you absolutely love. So it's anywhere from your clothes to your decor at home, things that spark joy. It's buying gifts for yourself, but it's also giving yourself the gift of an experience. And it could be going whitewater rafting or taking a cooking class or signing up to learn how to make ceramics. It's investing in education. It's buying yourself the gift of learning. It's taking a course or going on a retreat or working with a coach or anything that really inspires you in a mindful way. And it's also about doing things that don't cost money. So it's also about you giving, volunteering, volunteering in a shelter with animals or volunteering at a school. Like that is not just, it's not just about you receiving gift, but it's you feeling amazing by giving
Mm.
gifts. And it doesn't have to necessarily be money. I mean, it's always lovely if you have that extra money, but it's about giving of yourself and your time. Because when you volunteer, when you give of your time, honestly, no better sense of self love than, oh, I feel so good about myself because I helped other people, So it all ties kind of into that. And I love the whole gift things because it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, I bought myself yet another purse. It's like, it's not about that. It's about giving yourself gifts of advancement, of growth, of life, of gratitude, of giving back. Giving back is a gift to yourself. That's what I always say.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful distinction that the gift part of it is, I mean, yes, it started as a love language with the idea of receiving gifts and that, understanding that it's a thing, but it can be very small. It's a lot of times a gift is an indication that someone has thought of you. And so in this case, you're thinking of yourself.
Absolutely. Love language number four, quality time. And quality time in a romantic relationship is spending time together, going on dates, going on vacations, etc. When it comes to ourselves, it's about having and taking the time for yourself. So whether it's catching up on sleep, whether it's relaxing because you've had a physically laborious day, it's setting time aside to meditate, it's setting the time aside to journal. It's taking a bath. Again, it can be so many different things. Sleep for me is, I think, one of the biggest ones because one of the biggest complaints that I hear for a lot of people is not having quality sleep. Well, imagine getting into bed at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and getting a full 7, 8 hour range of sleep until the morning and waking up refreshed. That's quality time for yourself. Reading a book, going
Mm.
for a 10, 15 minute walk on your own, that is all quality time. Quality time for me when it comes to self-love is about creating a small pocket of space for yourself and ideally by yourself to regenerate, to just kind of like get back to yourself, get back to your roots, catch up on you time kind of thing.
I love that. Being present with yourself and paying attention to yourself. Beautiful.
Yes. And of course, the last one, which this is my number two love language, is physical touch. And this is where how I describe it as feel the self love. And physical touch in relationship is about physical intimacy. It's about, holding hands when you're walking, touching each other on the shoulder, a kiss on the forehead, hugs in good times and in times of struggle. When it comes to self love, physical touch is slightly different. It's things like giving yourself spa treatments or coming out of the bath and shower and moisturizing the skin. It's about taking an Epsom salt bath to be able to get rid of toxins. It's about working out. It's about stretching your muscles. It's about combing your hair and brushing it. And it's just about how you relate to yourself in a physical sense that feels really good, that feels empowering and enriching. And again, one of the songs that's so popular right now, and I heard you ask this in another podcast, what song makes you kind of want to jump and dance? right now the song Flowers by Miley Cyrus, really, it's such an empowering song. It blows my mind. I'm like, this is a self-love anthem right now, this song. And she was saying you can hold your own hand. And I think that the literal interpretation of that is you can physically hold yourself. You can physically touch yourself. So many times people just sit there, give yourself little massages, while you're watching TV or when you're reading a book. Stretch your legs, touch yourself every once in a while because it really ignites all the nerve endings in your skin. Like, just be kind to yourself in a physical way. And for many men and women out there, the reality is take care of yourself sexually in a personal, physical way. Masturbation is a beautiful way to not only reconnect with yourself and your sexuality, but to release anxiety and to release pressure and stress. And so many people don't think of that as a, oh, it's just something that you do. No, it's part of self-love. It's showing your self-love that we're not always reliant on other people to give us release, to give us happiness, to give us that satisfaction. We can and should rely on ourselves for that as well. So that is the fifth love language.
Oh, these are such great ideas. And some of that for the last one also is like, it really does come back to honoring your own needs as well. I mean, we can talk about pampering in that way, but really it comes down to what you need. And sometimes when we say what you need to feel love, to feel that worthiness, and every time you do these things, you are reaffirming. And that's so beautiful. What excited me from like the productivity side was looking at these things, and like you mentioned working out and physical touch as well as acts of service. There's some fabulous overlap here. There could be a lot of efficiency, especially if you take the quiz and you're like, I've got, a primary and a secondary love language. If they're acts of service and physical touch, you're like, aha. You want to talk about an efficient use of time. 20-minute workout, right? 10 minutes
Mhm.
even, but a small short workout, and you're taking care of two love languages. Oh my gosh, that's like super efficient, and you're moving toward something so beautiful.
But also, I look at it this way, you can apply all of these even if you're in a relationship. So, if quality time is your love language and you can communicate that to your partner, saying, I want us to spend time together, I want us to have a date night, I want us to do things together. But I also need quality time with myself. I want to be able to go for a walk by myself for 20 minutes every day. I want to be able to meditate for 15 minutes without interruption. I want to take a bath without anybody knocking on the door. Can you make that happen for me? You can use your significant other to help you incorporate your love language into yourself, into your, for me, communicating your needs is self-care at its outmost, highest. So all of these overlap in a certain way. And whether you're in a relationship or single, it applies in every area.
Yeah, that's such a good point that we're not doing this because we're not getting it elsewhere. And as a matter of fact, even if we are outward and inward, we want to apply it across the board. And if we can get those who love us and understand that that's a need to help us help ourselves as well, even better. It's all these fantastic layers of reminding ourselves that we are so worthy. Okay, I love that. Any other thoughts before we have a little fun with our rapid wrap up?
One of the things that I tell people is self love is a journey. It doesn't happen overnight. I always used to hear yoga is a practice because you never become perfect. It's something you do for the rest of your life. Self love is the same thing. There's no destination. Self love, self growth, self development, self awareness. It is all a process that's going to take you for the rest of your life, as long as you're willing to stay on the train. And I always say, yeah, you can jump off here and there, but always get back on the train, because that's when things will start rolling out in a way so that when the challenging days come, you have enough self love, self awareness, self confidence, self esteem, self to not let it drown you. To be able to be like, okay, I'm having a struggle, but tomorrow or the next day or next week is going to be much better because I apply all these self love methodologies into my life, and I know I'm going to be okay.
So true. It builds that resilience. It builds so much more than you know. Beautiful. I love that. That is the best way for us to end this. Before we dig into that rapid wrap up, let us know where we can find you online.
You can find me in a lot of different places. My website is www.miriamwexler.me. You can find me on Instagram, Miriam Wexler. You can find me on Facebook, the Miriam Wexler, and of course LinkedIn, Miriam Wexler. So I'm in a whole bunch of different places. If you need to find me, I'm there.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have those links in the show notes. And now, without further ado, I think I already know the answer to this first one. Filling in the blank, a song that lifts my spirits and makes me dance is.
So lately it's Flowers by Miley Cyrus, but I have to tell you, put on any song by ABBA and I'm dancing. So I always say ABBA is my good mood, instant good mood, instant happy music. So ABBA and the Bee Gees, but don't judge me.
There's only good judging here because that's all great music. Okay, so where would dancing to ABBA fall into the love languages?
Oh my God, in so many different ways. It's acts of service. It's giving yourself the permission to dance. It's physical touch by dancing and getting grounded with your feet on the ground. Oh my God, I think at least three of the love languages will encompass dancing to ABBA music.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'll put both of these things. I'll put Miley's song on and a good song from ABBA. I'm thinking Dancing Queen
I
immediately.
was just
right?
thinking that too. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I will put that on the Positively Living Podcast Spotify dance playlist. I think we're still on volume 3 here. So look for that. And you can crank up that playlist and hit a bunch of love languages all at the same time. Okay.
Nice.
Now, the next one is a quote or mantra that inspires me or that I share often.
So it's funny because it's actually an affirmation that I say to myself all the time. And I heard this on social media, but I keep using it. For the good of all and the harm of none, I am capable of doing anything I set my mind to.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay. And now, lastly, a resource. It could be a book or an app, anything that makes my life better.
Jensen Cher is probably one of my favorite authors. So anything by her, You Are a Badass, is a really good place to start because it really does help reframe some of the ways we think about ourselves. I think a lot of people could really benefit from reading Daring Greatly by Brene Brown, which talks about shame and can really open your eyes to some of the things that you may be thinking or feeling about yourself and haven't even really given a second thought to. I also think YouTube is such a beautiful resource because, for example, the Tony Robbins books, the Joe Dispenza books, they're all available on Audible on YouTube. So there is so much incredible information out there for anybody who needs it. And of course, you can come and chat with me and I'll tell you everything you need to know about whatever it is you're going through.
I love it. Okay. And I'll make sure to have those books that you mentioned added to, if they're not already there, on the positivelyproductive.com/favorites, the favorites page, just so you can find those quickly. Those are great. And then one little bonus question that I know you're going to love, and this definitely ties into love languages as well, especially when we turn it inward. What are you grateful for today, Miriam?
So much to be grateful for every day. I'm grateful for this time right now with you getting to do this. I'm grateful for the incredible support system I have in my life. I'm just so grateful that I know that whatever happens, there's somebody I can turn to that will just, if nothing else, tell me it's going to be okay.
Beautiful. Well, I am so grateful for this time together. I'm grateful for you. And I want to thank you, Miriam, for shining your light so brightly in this world and for sharing it with us today.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Thank you for joining me today. Your time is precious and limited, and I'm honored you chose to spend it with me. If you have feedback, questions, or want to schedule a chat, head to positivelyproductive.com/connect. And if you are looking for any of the resources referenced on the podcast, from books to products to training and more, go to positivelyproductive.com/resources.